So this is what a laybox looks like. I'm about to check it. The female that I have in this enclosure has been laying in it, and just been digging around in it the past couple of days, and I'm not really sure if she's gravid or not. It was a pairing that we had done, and so far there wasn't any success, so I'm kind of hoping maybe there's something in here today, but we're just going to look and see. Basically, they like to pack it down as tight as they can, and that's when you know most of the time that they've laid something, even if it's just an infertile egg. So we just kind of like lightly try to dig back up this earth that they've packed down so delicately and try to see if we can find anything. And it looks like there's a couple eggs here. I'm not exactly sure. See them right there? I'm not exactly sure if they're going to be fertile or not. So basically what we do here is I take them out. I take like a little piece of like paper towel and I very lightly try to dust off as much dirt as I can, just so that way when I go to candle it, I can actually see if it's fertile or not. And basically, the only way to tell that if it's fertile is you take, it's called candling, but basically you turn off all the lights. You turn on your flashlight on your phone, or if you have like a handheld flashlight, some sort of light source, and you hold it under the egg, and you kind of just rotate the egg until you see what we call a red, like a cherry, and it's just basically like a red ring. They vary in hues. Sometimes it'll be like a light pink. Sometimes it'll be a bright red. But if you see a red ring at all, it's fertile. If you rotate the egg and it's just basically like yellowy, it's infertile, which happens. But I'm kind of hoping that after I take this video and I dust these eggs off and I check and candle them, that I see that red cherry, because I paired her this year to Vlad, which is a Dracula line gargoyle from Tiki's Geckos, and she is like just, you know, basic black and white striped gecko, but I'm kind of really hoping that they paired and we can get some more gargoyles, because really we don't have very many and we're obsessed with them. And she's owned actually by a friend of mine. Their business is called Luminous Reptiles. They're really cool people, Rebecca and Eli. They've been doing it a lot longer than I have, and they have some amazing things, so you should check them out. But anyway, yeah, so we did like a collaboration. So I have her female, and I'm really hoping that I can message her soon and let her know good news. But yeah, so I just kind of wanted to give you a little idea. So basically we just use these, like, this is like a little, I don't know what you'd call it, like a lunch container from the Dollar Tree, literally $1. And then we just do a mixture of peat moss and like play sand that you'd get at like a hardware store, and cocoa fiber. And I can give a ratio later on in another clip of this video, but it's like the best substrate that we could really find, and it holds humidity because you want it to be humid for these eggs to grow. And so basically mix that all up. The cocoa fiber requires water to hydrate it because it comes in like a compact, compressed, dry block. But you don't want it sopping wet. You want it to where it's just barely dripping out water, so it can hold that humidity for these eggs to survive. So yeah, I'm going to hop off here for a minute and I'll be back. I'm just going to candle these eggs. All right, so I just got done candling these babies and they are fertile. I am so freaking stoked about this. Like, I was kind of leery. I don't want to get my hopes up before I know for sure, but you can kind of even see just outside of the egg right here where it kind of has that red ring. You can barely see it. This is like a cherry red. When I candled it, it was super bright red, like fire engine red. So I think that's why you can kind of see it through the egg, which is, it doesn't happen often, but in this case it did. So that's really, really cool. I'm very excited to be able to tell Eli and Rebecca, hey, guess what? The pairing worked. So basically what we do after this, I kind of wanted to give you guys a little bit of a rundown of what we do here. You know, I go and I get my supplies, which isn't much. I get my lay box, which is just basically like a little Tupperware thing I got from the craft section at Walmart. I can't remember how much it was. And then, you know, permanent marker, masking tape. And basically what I do is I open up this little clippy clips. I open that up, and then you'll see, I gotta turn this around because it's, oh, actually it is like this, my bad. So you'll see I already have a few eggs in here, and I kind of have it filled up. This is like the one that's supposed to hatch out soon. I don't know if it will or not. Sometimes they don't make it, but we'll see. And these ones will be hatching out probably by next week or the week after. That's roughly about the time frame for those. Pretty excited. That's my trigun and marshmallow pairing. Anyway, so what I'll do is I'll end up putting it back up here. And this substrate that it's in, that the eggs are in, I did a lot of research before I started breeding, and this is like the best substrate that I could find. It's Repashy Super Hatch. And I can go into detail about it here in a minute, but basically it's just a really good substrate. It holds humidity because these eggs have to be incubated for about 90 days, 90 to 120 days, sometimes a little bit longer, but roughly that's about the average. For me, it's normally anywhere from 98 to 100 days because of my temperatures in my house. But so it has to be humid in here for these eggs to last that long, because if they dry out, that's a dud egg. It just won't work. So, and we don't want that. But anyway, so we put them in here. I take my handy dandy little marker. I don't know if I can do this with one hand. Skill level 0. And basically I write on the egg, just like these right here, the initials of the pairing. So then that way I can remember which eggs these came from. And so I would write on here, hold on, I might have to put you down. I'll see if I can do it. Vlad and Sparrow. So V, sometimes it's a little challenging. I want to be delicate with these eggs. And Sparrow. See? V and S. I will know what that is because, well, I know my geckos pretty well, I guess. And then I take the lid and I put it back on. I slap it back on. And I would have to remove this. So I normally will take, when I'm done, like with, like if an egg's hatched, and I need to reuse a spot or something, I will take the tag off here and I put it in their folder so that way I can keep tabs of everything. So when they were laid, when they hatched, so I can let the new owner of that gecko know the details. So on that little sticker, I take this masking tape, and just like on here, I write down the names and I write down the date that it was laid. And then I can roughly know, because I know my average amount of days that it incubates for, I can roughly know when it's due to hatch. And so around that time, I like to kind of keep an eye on them. I check them daily, because they can always pop out earlier, a little later, and you never know, and you don't want them to stay in the substrate, because what will happen is they shed within the first 3 days of after being hatched, and you do not want them to eat the substrate because it will cause them to be impacted, and it's just no bueno. So the faster you can get them out of the incubation once they've hatched and into their enclosure, the better. So basically that's about it. Yeah, give me one sec. Okay, so here is the Repashy that I was kind of talking about before. I kind of wanted to give you guys a little bit of a visual representation of like what I'm talking about. So you're not like, oh, that's great, but I've never heard of it. So this is it right here. And I get them in these big jugs. Well, mostly just because we use a lot of it, right? But you can find them in smaller containers. So like if you were, you know, interested in like dipping your toes in breeding, but you didn't want to do large scale like this, you could get those smaller little containers. They're like about that big, right? But basically, let's see here. Instructions, information. So you can pause this at any time and like read it. I'm not going to go into huge detail, but from all of my research, this was like the best stuff. It like stays moist for so long. And we don't like to put any holes in our incubator because it will dry it out a lot faster, I found. So what we do instead is we just make sure that we, what's called burp the incubator once a week. And that's just basically, we open the lid just for a second and then put the lid back on. So that way we don't have any bacteria or mold buildup in the incubator, which is also not very good for your eggs. But we found that we've had large success with that, and we'll just keep doing that. And that's basically, that's all. You know, you just you hydrate this stuff with water. It doesn't have to be like a certain ratio to the Repashy. You just basically cover it. You let it sit for 5 minutes. I'll just set a timer because I don't remember. Like, set a timer for 5 minutes, and then you drain as much of the water out as you can. Like if you've got like tiny little drops coming out, like with the lay boxes, that's okay. You just don't want there to be water sitting at the bottom of your incubation enclosure, because that will be too wet for the eggs and they'll actually drown the eggs, and it just, you won't have success with incubating your eggs very well. So, but you just want it to be like most of the way drained out to where it's just creating ambient humidity for long periods of time. Like it lasts that full 90 to 130 days. And you'll know too with this stuff, like I'll show you real quick if I can get it open. Hold on 1 sec. See the color difference? This is dry. This is where it, you know, it has no water to it whatsoever. It's not been soaked, and it's just basically like lava rock, and it's very, very light colored, right? Kind of like sand. And when it's hydrated, it looks closer to this, which you remember? Look at the difference, right? And this one actually, you know, I might have to switch out, oh, sorry, there you go. May have to switch out the incubation medium and start a new thing, just because a lot of those, you know, I've used it for quite some time now. And yeah, so I just want to make sure that these eggs stay in good ambient humidity, which is not a big deal. Basically, I'll just go over to my handy dandy little cabinet thingy. I'll grab another bin. I've got them all stacked up over here. And then I'll bring it back over to the other side, hydrate it with, you know, new Repashy, all that stuff, and then move all the eggs and the labels over to the next one. And that's just it. It's actually not that hard. So if you ever wanted to dip your toes in it, you could. So yeah, I just kind of wanted to do a quick video and share a little bit with you guys. If you had any questions or wanted to see any more, you just let me know. I can do another more in-depth video. I just kind of wanted to share that experience with you because I thought, you know, I'm already checking it. Why not take you along with me, right? So that's about it. And I might have more things I'll show you later. Who knows? The weekend is still young. So anyways, thanks. Okay guys, so I'm basically just going to show you real quick how I would set up my light box. So I got this like Sterilite little tub. You got it just like in the Tupperware section, you know, it's pretty basic. I don't think it was very much, pretty inexpensive really. So I'm going to start off with that. And I have my handy dandy Repashy Super Hatch. So I'm going to use this and put it in that and make my incubation thingy. Words escape me apparently. So like I don't really ever measure. I just kind of want it to fill the bottom and like have enough space in. Just kind of want to fill the bottom and have like enough to where when I push the egg in, it has it's like halfway covered, right? So I don't know, let's see. That might be a little bit too much, so I'm going to take a little bit out of it. Just kind of like eyeballing it here. Still maybe a little bit too much, so I'll just kind of like put some back and try not to spill it as much as I can. That should be good. Let's pat it back down, kind of try to get it to the corners a little bit. That's about it. That's about right. Put my lid back on. I'll leave that open. And then basically I take this and I soak it in water. I'll be right back. I'll show you what I mean. So this is it soaking. You can kind of see my light above it, and that's sort of annoying. Let's see if I can find a different spot for me to set this so we're not blinded. You can kind of see what I mean. All right, so that's kind of a better look there. So basically, yeah, it's just covered. It's just covered just above the super hatch. And then we just set a timer normally for about 5 minutes. Let it sit and come back. We drain it all out. And then I can even show you kind of like what I mean by drain out. It might be a little bit difficult because it's just me, shooting this video with my phone. But I'm going to give it my best shot. So then, yeah, we set this for about 5 minutes and then it's good. Alright guys, so I'm going to drain this out. Don't mind my sink. We've been painting and this is my utility sink. Now you can judge me if you want. Basically, you want as much of that water out. See how I'm like, oh, it's like basically just the super hatch in here. And I'm trying to shake out as much of that water, and it's just kind of coming out in drops. We're nearly there. Okay, that's it. So then I take this back over to the other side. Take the lid off. Check it out. I kind of like run my fingers through it, make sure there's no pools of water anywhere. Try to inspect it the best that I can. It looks pretty darn good. Yes, it does. See how it's kind of like sticking to my fingers, but it's not, pick it up. It's not like drenched in water where water is like falling out of my hands in between the rocks or the pebble or, the super hatch. So that's how you know that it's the right mixture of water to super hatch. You don't want it to be drenched. You just want it to be humid in here for these little guys. And that's always a messy job. Gecko job's a messy job. You know it. So then after I have all this set up, this is when I can actually start adding babies. So there were a few that I added in here, in the beginning of this video. I think I'm actually going to transfer them over to this lay box. So that way I know for a fact they get the longest humidity they could possibly get, because the one that they're in right now is going to end up eventually drying out too much, I think, and I'd rather just not risk it and just transfer them over to this one. And I forgot to mention the last time I was on this video, because I'm sure you've probably seen this whole mess. So I have a female who is, brand new to breeding. This is her first year, and I wasn't even sure she'd actually be able to have babies. I thought she might have been infertile because I had paired her several times and nothing had taken. And then finally I got fertile eggs, which they were these ones right here. But they looked like they were almost like over-calcified, which sometimes happens, especially with like new, breeders and whatnot. So I kind of kept an eye on them, and then I started noticing that they started to leak just slightly. And I heard before that if you put some damp, not wet, but damp paper towel around them, you can sometimes save the egg. And so far, so good. I mean, the leaking hasn't gotten worse. They're not molded. It doesn't look the prettiest, but every time I've had to change out the paper towel and candle the egg to make sure everything is still going okay, they just keep progressing. So far, so good. It works. It looks funny, but that's what that is. I'm trying to save these 2 eggs because I would hate to lose them. And she did lay, I believe, another set right here. So those are her eggs. And you can kind of even see here, if it'll focus, They're just different, right? They're a little bit more over-calcified, but they're better than the last ones that she laid. This right here is like the prime example of what you would want to see. That's like the best looking egg, right? But sometimes they come out like this. Sometimes they come out like with little spots like this one here. This one right here, if it'll focus. Focus. I feel like I'm shaky. You know, you see like all those little lines and little spots and stuff. That's all normal. Those will hatch, so they'll be fine. They're not all 100% the same. I'm going to fix that one a little bit. That bugs me because of my OCD. But, as well as this one. Fix that one right there. Okay. Get you guys. There we are. That's better. But, yeah, I just kind of wanted to give you all a rundown of how this all works. And because I know I explained it, but I thought, you know, visual representation probably does better than just talking about it. I know that's how I learn. So there might be some out there that will learn the same way as well. So now that since I've moved these ones over here, I have to take these little bad boys, these stickers. I just use masking tape, but these, and move them over this way. Now, all before my kids get home from school. I just got out of work, and then I'm on to geckos right off the bat. I had a female last night in the lay box. Checked it this morning. She had laid eggs, but they're both infertile. That's kind of a bummer, but it happens, right? So then after that, I put them over here. And then they just rest for several months. This right here, if you wondered what this was all about, I'm eventually going to be transitioning this little wine cooler. It's like, I found it on Buy Sell Trade, Facebook. My trash can's in the background. That's kind of nice. Anyway, I'm going to turn that into an incubator for my leopard geckos, which are over here, over there. Ooh, they're still super high charming. Over there, and over there. They're just everywhere. All my geckos. I've been trying to kind of get a little bit more organized. I don't know if I can see Trogdor in here. I got to clean out his tank again. He is so messy. Oh, there he is. He's hiding. Here's Trogdor. He's a grumpy boy, but I love him. Anyways, yeah. So that's basically it, I think. Like, I can't think of anything else that I could possibly tell you guys. So I would like to do a video real quick, but I wanted to show you guys how I make my laybox substrate. So this white stuff here, right here, this powdery white stuff, that's clay sand. This stuff you can get at like the hardware store. And then the brown stuff in here is the cocoa fiber. So basically I just broke up, it was like a little cube. It's not like the Exoterra or whatever. It was like stuff I found at like a one of my local garden shops or whatever. They had like little blocks. So I broke up a block and I put about roughly, it's like a 2-to-1 ratio. So if you have like one block, then you have like 2 cups of the play sand. So that's what I did, and it's kind of very powdery. So what I do here is I just douse it in water, just like the super hatch. So I take it over to the other side. This part's kind of messy. This is where you basically are like a kid again. You're playing in the pool of mud. Kids put, they put like these little, oh, I don't even know what they're called, these things in them. So I've been picking that out of it. I got it for my plants, and then they've been putting it in my substrate. So I like to kind of set this up ahead of time, and I put it in this bucket here. So in case I need to make more, like if, like I don't have enough lay boxes or something happens. I don't know. Like I always try to have some on standby. So it looks really wet right now. It looks really sloppy. But this cocoa fiber here will absorb. It will absorb this water. Good amount of it anyway. And then whatever it doesn't absorb, I then try to drain out as best as I can. And then once it's all like incorporated real well, then I mix it really, really good. It's easier once the cocoa fibers absorbed a lot of this water, but I'm just trying to get that water all the way down to the bottom, so in case there's any sand trapping some cocoa fiber, it can really absorb as much as it can. But I didn't put that much water in there. I didn't really measure it. I know some people measure it. I eyeball it. I don't know. But basically, okay, here's really wet. See all that water that's draining out? That's too much. Right? So when it gets to the point where it's exactly the way it's supposed to be, I will come back and I will show you once it's soaked. I normally let it sit here for probably about an hour-ish. And then once it's soaked, for the most part, and not, you know, as much of the water can be absorbed is absorbed, then I come back and I try to drain out the rest of it, and then I'll show you at that time what it's supposed to look like when you're making lay boxes. But it's really not hard, but this is the worst part of it, is that you get really dirty. So if, like, you're not one that likes to play in the mud, this is probably not for you. I mean, I guess I could use a spatula, but I mean, how do you really know if it's all broken up and incorporated, right? I like to be hands-on, and I've never been opposed to getting my hands dirty. So, see, there's still chunks. There's still big chunks of cocoa fiber. So it's important to really get that in there and really get it incorporated. But yeah, that's basically it. And then when it's done, I'll show you what it looks like. So here's what it looks like after it's been sitting for a while. So kind of already mixed it all up, which that was a task. It's all over my fingernails. I'll have to clean it off later. But you can see where that sand is mixed in with that cocoa fiber. And so I'm going to show you what it's supposed to look like. Okay, remember how before it was just drenched in water? You squeezed it and it just came out like crazy? Now watch. You don't see any. I mean, it still kind of needs this mixed around a little bit more, but here, we find the most damp. See, even that's a little bit too much, but like when I mix this around, get it fully incorporated here, you want it to where it's just little tiny drops, to where it sticks to your hand, but it's not just sopping water. Just little tiny drops. So, I'm going to have to sit here and continuously stir and stir and stir. But eventually the whole bucket will be like that. And then we just lay these in our lay boxes, like you saw at the beginning of the video here. And that's basically it. And that will stay moist for quite some time, and you may have to go back once in a while and check to make sure it's staying moist. Mist it real quick, and then that's basically it. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Okay, so that basically wraps up the video. Just wanted to end it with a little outro here, and this fancy gecko I have with me this evening is Voorhees. He's one of my favorite gargoyles here at Glenny Geckos. I tried pairing him this year to another one of my splotched geckos. Her name is Habanero. So far, haven't seen anything yet, but you know how it goes. How I explained earlier, you know, you just keep trying. So he basically is just at that breeding weight and age mark. So he might just be a little bit shy at first. So we'll try again next year if nothing happens so far this year, and hope for the best. But he's pretty spectacular. We got this dude from Tiki's Geckos, but he's kind of fired down right now, so you really can't see his full spectrum of color. But I really like him a lot. He's really neat, and he's such a sweet boy. A lot of people that I talk to local where I live don't know much about gargoyles. They kind of tend to think that they're a bit more aggressive or a bit more flighty. And I actually kind of tend to see the opposite with these dudes compared to the cresteds. they always tend to be a little bit more docile, to me anyway. As long as you like careful with them, you know, you're not fidgety, you just hand walk them calmly, they tend to kind of just chill out. Whereas sometimes Cresteds like to be the little escape artists. As soon as they see their enclosure open, they're like, zoom, I gotta get out of here. But anyways, I hope you enjoy this video. I'm planning on probably doing a few more videos in the future, kind of explaining how we do things here at Mini Geckos and how to take care of geckos and just like different things like that, because I mean, I know there's a lot out there, so if you know you wanted to check what I've said and find out your own information, you can always do that, feel free. But you know, if like I am like the first channel that you visited and this is where you're going to get your information from, I'm trying to be as accurate as possible, and I think that the more I push out there, the better, because I mean, the better we can take care of these dudes, the better for the future, right? So they're really great pets. Real quick, just to add this at the end here, if you're ever contemplating about getting a gecko, either from me or from someone else, they're really great pets as long as like you get them from a reputable breeder that you know knows a lot about that animal and the care of that animal. As long as you have their basic care taken care of, they're great pets. If you're afraid of like holding something like this because you don't know if you're like into reptiles, you don't technically have to hold these guys. You could just kind of have them as like a little bit of a like living art in your house. I mean, the only thing you'd really have to handle them for is if you needed to clean out their enclosure, you'd have to remove them from the enclosure so you could do so. But I mean, you don't technically have to socialize these creatures. They're not like a dog or a cat, you know, they are reptiles, but that's what makes them cool. You know, the care is very, very easy. It's inexpensive. It all depends on how much you want to put into it. I mean, you could make it more expensive, but just the basic things that they need, very inexpensive, very easy to attain. And I think this is like a great starter pet for a lot of kids, as long as they're like older. I'd say probably older than like 8, you know, just because anything younger than 8, they tend to not know how to handle them that well, and they are little, so you don't really want to hurt them, but great pets. But that's what I'm hoping this video kind of did, is a little bit of an intro to some of the basic care for breeding. I will do more videos in the future about how to take care of them in general. Maybe I can show you how I make their food and different things like that. So if there was anything in particular that you guys wanted to ask about, or maybe you would like a video about, just write a comment on this video, and I will be sure to try to get that situated for the next video, or maybe even the next video after that. Maybe I'll categorize them. But I just wanted to kind of hop on here and have a decent kind of outro, so I didn't just leave you hanging in that video. And I really honestly just wanted to show off my little buddy here. He's such a sweetheart. And we gave him a not so sweetheart name, Voorhees, like Jason Voorhees, because of all of the red splotches on his back. But he is exact opposite. Super sweet boy. He's never bit or anything like that. Isn't that right, Voorhees? That's what we call him sometimes, Voorhees-ish. But anyways, I appreciate anyone that came on here and watched our videos. It really means the world to us. We are brand new babies when it comes to YouTube, but we are very excited to be able to share this information with all of our viewers, whether they're small or large. We enjoy what we do, and we enjoy anyone that likes to, you know, follow us through our journey. So I appreciate that, and I hope you enjoy, and you have a fantastic day. Bye.
I'm the prettiest boy at the party. Everyone said so. Man.